What is up, my little freaks? Welcome to Polarity. We have a fun video today. We're going to be doing a read through of the Lacerta Files. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'll give you a quick rundown, but I won't spoil too much because the read through kicks off with basically a really good explanation. So the Lacerta Files are an alleged interview that took place in 1999 between someone who claims to be a hard skeptic, or at least they were before this event, and a female lizard person. I know, I can see you specifically. You're typing an angry comment already because this is just shattering the mold of reality that you've constructed over your whole life. Lizard people. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Well, look, at the very least, this is an entertaining read through that might stimulate your mind a little bit, maybe some thought-provoking answers here that might get you thinking in a little bit of a different way about humanity and how we got here. Now, I will say this, I haven't actually read through the whole thing. I've skimmed over it, I've seen bits of it, and I have seen the Y-Files video on it, which is fantastic, by the way. You should check that out if you haven't. So I've got a pretty good idea on what this is about, but I've never read through the whole thing. So I'm really excited to do this. The 4chan read-throughs that we've done have been really fun. You guys seem to like them as well. So there's not really any images or anything with this read-through, guys. It's really just me reading text. So unless you want to read along with me, this is probably a good video to maybe chuck on in the headphones while you're doing something, or maybe while you're working in the background. So really, I don't think there's anything else to say. We should just get into it. But I will say this, we keep it real here on Polarity, okay? We do live shows, we don't edit, we do everything in one take, okay? That's what it's about here. So with that said, let's kick it off. These are the Lacerta Files. So this is a little introduction to give you an explanation on what you're about to hear. I certify that the following text is the absolute truth and no work of fiction. These are parts of a transcript of an interview I've made with a non-human and R-word being in December 1999. Look, I really want to avoid getting those stickers under my videos, especially the ones I've already gotten. So I might try and dodge it or change it to lizard person as we go. We'll see. This female being was already in contact with a friend of mine whose name is given only with the abbreviation EF in this text. Since some months, let me declare that I was all my life a skeptic about UFOs, aliens, and other weird things I thought that EF tells me were just dreams or fictitious stories when he talked with me about his first contacts with the non-human being Lacerta. So he's saying that his friend used to talk about this lizard person and other strange things, and this person just thought he was basically a little bit of a kook. I was still a skeptic when I met this being on December 16th last year in that small warm room in the remote house of my friend near to a town in the south of Sweden. Despite the fact that I saw now with my own eyes that she was not human, she has told and shown me so many unbelievable things during that meeting that I can't deny the reality and the truth of her words any longer. So I will say this, you can probably kind of tell already if you've actually been reading the text with me. And as this person said, he is not, English isn't his first language, okay? So sometimes the way that this stuff is written is, it might make me sound a bit funny while I'm reading it, okay? Just because I'm reading it as we go. This is not another of that wrong UFO papers which claim to tell the truth, but tell, in fact, just fiction. I'm convinced that this transcript contains the only truth, and therefore you should read it. I had talked with her for over 3 hours, so the following transcript shows you only shortened parts of the interview, because she asked me after the interview not to publish everything she had told me already now. The order of the questions in this transcript is not always the same order in which I had asked them, so it may seem sometimes a little bit confusing to you. It was not easy to delete all the important parts she asked me to delete from the transcript, so I apologize for the maybe unusual order. I'm in the possession of the entire transcript of the interview, 49 pages with some drawings of her body and her equipment, and also of some tapes on which I have the full interview, but I will not reveal this before I have permission from her. I will send this shortened form of the full fascinating document to 4 of my reliable friends in Finland, Norway, Germany, and France, and I hope they will translate it into their own languages and into other languages, and I hope as many people as possible will be able to read and understand the transcript. I certify furthermore that various paranormal abilities of her species, like telepathy and telekinesis, including the moving and dancing of my pencil on the table without touching and the flying of an apple around 40 centimeters over her hands, were shown to me during the 3 hours and 6 minutes of the meeting, and I'm absolutely sure that these abilities were no tricks. The following is certainly difficult to understand and to believe for someone who hasn't experienced it. But I was really in contact with her mind, and I'm now completely sure that everything she said during the interview is the absolute truth about our world. Unfortunately, if I read the entire transcript and much more, this very shortened form by myself, I have the strong impression that everything I've written sounds too unbelievable to be true. That everything sounds more like a bad science fiction story from TV or cinema, and I have doubts that anyone will believe my experiences, but they are true if you believe it or not. I can't expect from you that you believe my simple words without evidence, but I can't give you that evidence. Please read the transcript and think about it, and you'll maybe see the truth in these words. There will be a new meeting between me and her, again in the same house in Sweden on April 23rd, 2000. And she promised me to give me maybe some evidence for her existence. In the meantime, I collect questions, which I will ask her then. Maybe she gives me permission to reveal more of the missing parts in the transcript and about the coming war. Believe it or not, this makes no real difference, but I hope you will believe. Ollie K. So that's the intro. That's your little introduction there. Now, he already mentions a couple of things that we literally talked about in the latest episode, the last video that I did, where the thumbnail says Prison Planet, because Courtney Brown talks about a coming war between good and bad ETs. And if we just go back here, okay, there was something else I wanted to talk about, but that's okay. We'll comment on these as we go if I feel like there's anything worth saying. But without further ado, let's get into the interview. So, question. First of all, who are you and what are you? Are you an extraterrestrial species, or can your origin be found on this planet? Answer. As you can see with your own eyes, I'm not a human being like you, and to be honest, I'm no real mammal, despite my partly mammal-like body features which are a result of evolution. I'm a female reptile being, belonging to a very old reptilian race. We are the native Terrans, and we live on that planet since millions of years. We are mentioned in your religious writings like your Christian Bible, and many of the ancient human tribes were aware of our presence and worshipped us as gods. For example, the Egyptians and the Inca and many other old tribes. Your Christian religion has misunderstood our role in your creation, so we are mentioned as evil serpents in your writings. This is wrong. Your race was genetically engineered by aliens, and we were just the more or less passive visitors of this accelerated evolution process. You must know, some of your scientists have already supposed this, that your species had evolved in a naturally completely impossible speed within just 2 to 3 million years. This is absolutely impossible because evolution is a much slower process if it's natural, but you have not understood this. Your creation was artificial and done by genetic engineering, but not by us, by an alien species. If you ask me if I'm an extraterrestrial, I must answer no. We are native Terrans. We had and have some colonies in the solar system, but we originate on this planet. It's in fact our planet and not yours. It was never yours. I mean, yeah, we're already getting things here that like connect to things that we've talked about. Obviously, we've been talking a lot recently about religion and the mentioning of like an evil serpent species. That's been like the hot topic of a lot of the videos recently. And also, again, she's saying your race was genetically engineered by aliens. This is essentially backing up what John Blitz has said, right? He was basically saying, remember, he was like, getting abducted is like taking a Labrador to the vet. They're interested in our DNA and they just want to tinker with us sometimes. That's literally what a guy who was in charge of our nuclear weapons told us like 2 weeks ago. Question, can you tell me your name? Answer, this is difficult because your human tongue is not able to pronounce it correctly, and a mispronunciation of our names is very offensive for some of my kind. Our language is very different to yours, but my name is, I will try to say it smoother by use of your human letters, something like, oh God, I'll try for you guys. Shia Shakashish. I'm speaking parcel tongue, baby. With a very, very strong pronunciation on the sh and k on the k sounds. We have no forenames like you, but only a single but unique name, which is divided and characterized by the way of speaking, and which is given not to children who have an own right. So their children have their own names, but only a special procedure in the adolescent age at the time of either religious or scientific enlightenment or awareness, as you would call it. I would appreciate it if you don't try to say my real name with your human tongue. Yeah, look, after my attempt, I don't blame you, Lacerta. Please call me Lacerta. This is the name I generally use when I'm among humans and talk with them. So basically what she's saying is you don't really get a name, your own name, until you reach a stage of what we would consider enlightenment. So when you become an adult and mature. And before that, you kind of just get like a generic child name. Question, how old are you? Answer, we measure the time not like you in astronomical years and in the revolving of the Earth around the sun, because we usually live beneath the surface of the planet. Our time measurement depends on periodically returning cycles in the Earth magnetic field, and according to this, and said with your numbers, I'm today, let me calculate, 57,653 cycles old. I have reached my adult phase and my awareness 16,337 cycles ago. This is a very important date for us. According to your human timescale, I'm around 28 years old. Question, what is your task? Do you have a job like us? Answer, to say it with your words, I'm a curious student of the social behavior of your species. That's why I'm here and talk to you. That's why I have revealed my real nature to EF and now to you. And that's why I give you all that secret information and why I will try to answer all of the questions on your many sheets of paper honestly. I will see how you react and how others of your kind react. There are so many crazies and liars of your kind on this planet who claim to know the truth about us, about UFOs, about aliens, and so on, and some of you believe their lies. I'm interested to see how your species will react if you make the truth, which I will tell you now, public. I'm quite sure every one of you will refuse to believe my words, but I hope I'm wrong, because you need to understand if you want to survive the coming years. Question. I've read your full statement, which you have given to EF about this, but can you give me now just a short answer? Are UFOs real flying objects piloted by extraterrestrials, or do they belong to your species? Answer. Some observed UFOs, as you call them, belong to us, but most not. Most of the mysterious flying objects in the sky are not technological devices, but mainly misinterpretations of natural phenomena your scientists have not understood, like spontaneous plasma flares in the high atmosphere. Nevertheless, some UFOs are real craft belonging either to your own species, especially to your military, skunk works, or to other alien species, or at last to us, but a minority of sighted craft belongs really to us, because we are generally very careful with our movements in the atmosphere and we have special ways to hide our ships. Cloaking. If you read a report about a sighting of a metallic, bright grey, cigar-shaped, cylindrical object with a length of, there are different types, let me say between 200 and 260 of your meters, and if this object had made a very deep humming sound, and if there were 5 bright red lights on the metallic surface of the cigar, one at the top, one in the middle, 2 at the end, then it's likely that someone of you have seen one of our ships, and this means that it was either partly defect or that someone of us was not careful enough. We have also a very small fleet of disc-shaped craft, but such UFOs belong usually to an alien species. Triangular UFOs belong generally to your own military, but they use foreign technology to build them. If you really want to try to see one of our craft, you should have a look at the skies over the Arctic, the Antarctic, and over inner Asia, especially over the mountains there. Maybe the Antarctica egg was a reptilian egg. Wouldn't that be crazy? Question. Have you a special symbol or something like that with which we can identify your kind? Answer. We have 2 major symbols representing our species. One, the more ancient symbol, is a blue serpent with 4 white wings on a black background. The colors have religious meanings for us. This symbol was used from certain parts of my society, but it is today very seldom. You humans have copied it very often in your old writings. The other symbol is a mystic being you would call a dragon, in the shape of a circle with 7 white stars in the middle. This symbol is much more common today. If you see one of that symbols on a cylindrical craft I've described in my previous answer, or on some underground installation, this thing or place belongs definitely to us, and I would advise you to go away from there as soon as possible. Now, like I said, guys, I hadn't read through this yet, and we do this show live. So if those descriptions of symbols remind you of anything, let me know what it is in the comments. Question. The 7 stars in the second symbol you've mentioned, do they mean the Pleiades? Pleiades? No. Actually, the 7 stars are planets and moons, and they are a symbol for our former 7 colonies in the solar system. The stars are shown in front of a blue background, and the dragon circle means the shape of Earth. The 7 white stars mean Moon, Mars, Venus, and 4 moons of Jupiter and Saturn. We had colonized in the past. 2 colonies are no longer in use and abandoned, so 5 stars would be more correct. Question. As you have not allowed me to take photos, what would be very useful to prove your existence, your real existence, and the truth of this story? Can you describe yourself detailed? I know that it would be helpful to prove the authenticity of this interview if you can make some photos of me. Otherwise, you humans are very skeptic. That's good for us and for the real alien species acting secretly on this planet. So even if you had such photos, many of your kind would say that they are fraud, that I'm just a masked human woman or something like that. That would be very offensive for me. You must understand that I can't give you permission to make photos of me or my equipment. This has various reasons, which I want not to discuss with you further. But one of the reasons is the keeping up of the secrecy of our existence. Another reason is more religious. Nevertheless, you have permission to make drawings of my look and of my equipment I can show you later. I can also try to describe myself, but I doubt that others of your kind will be able to imagine my look just from simple words, because the automatic denial of the existence of reptilian species and generally of intelligent species other than your own is part of the programming of your mind. Well, I'll try. Imagine the body of a normal human woman, and you have at first a good imagination of my body. Like you, I have a head, 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, and 2 feet, and the proportions of my body are like yours. As I'm female, I also have 2 breasts. Despite our reptile origin, we have started to give milk to our babies during the evolution process. This happened around 30 million years ago, because this is the best thing to keep the young alive. Evolution had done this for your species already in the dinosaur age, a little bit later also for ours. That means not that we are now real mammals, but the breasts of us are not as large as those of human women, and the size of them is generally equal for every female of my kind. The external reproduction organs are for both sexes smaller than those of humans, but they are visible and they have the same function as yours, another gift of evolution to our species. My skin is mainly of a green-beige color, more pale green, and we have some patterns of brown irregular dots, each dot of the size of 1 to 2 centimeters on our skin and in our face. The patterns are different for both sexes, but females have more, especially in the lower body and in the face. You can see them in my case as 2 lines over the eyebrows crossing my forehead, at my cheek, and at my chin. My eyes are a little bit larger than human eyes. For this reason, we can see better in the darkness, and usually dominated from the large black pupils, which are surrounded from a small bright green iris. Males have dark green iris. The pupil is slit and can change in its size from a small black line to a wide open egg-shaped oval, because our retina is very light sensitive and the pupil must compare this. We have external round ears, but they are smaller and not so curved as yours. But we can hear better because our ears are more sensitive for sonic. We can also hear a wider range of sonic. There's a muscle or lid over the ears which can completely close them. For example, underwater, our nose is more pointed and there is a V-shaped curving between the nostrils which enables the ancestors to see temperature. We have lost most of this ability, but we can still feel temperature much better with this organ, in quotes. Our lips are shaped like yours. Those of females are a little bit larger than those of males, but of a pale brown color, and our teeth are very white and strong and a little bit longer and sharper than your soft mammal teeth. We have no different hair colors like you, but there is a tradition to color the hairs in different ages, and the original color is, like mine, a greenish brown. Our hairs are thicker and stronger than yours, and they grow very slow. In addition, the head is the only part of our body where we have hairs. Our body, arms, and legs are similar in shape and size to yours, but the color is different. Green beige like the face, and there are scale-like structures on the upper legs, over the knee, and upper arms over the elbow. Our 5 fingers are a little bit longer and thinner than human fingers, and our skin on the palm is plain. So we have no lines like you, but again, a combination of scale-like skin structure and of the brown dots. Both sexes have the dots on the palm, and we have no fingerprints like you. If you touch my skin, you will feel that it is smoother than your hairy skin. There are small sharp horns on the upside of both middle fingers. The fingernails are grey and generally longer than yours. You see that my nails are not so long and round at the top. This is because I'm female. Males have sharp pointed nails with a length of sometimes 5 or 6 of your centimeters. The following feature is very different from your body and part of our reptilian origin. If you touch the backside of my upper body, you will feel a hard bony line through my clothing. This is not my spine, but a very difficult shaped external plate structure of skin and tissue following exactly our spine from the head to the hip. There is an extremely high number of nerves and large blood vessels in this structure and in the plates, which are around 2 or 3 centimeters long and very touch sensitive. This is the reason why we have always problems to sit in chairs with a back like this chair. The main task of these small plates, beside a role in our sexuality, is simply the regulation of our body temperature. And if we sit in natural or artificial sunlight, these plates become more blood-filled and the vessels become wider, and the sun is able to heat up our reptoid blood, which circulates through the body and through the plates for many degrees, and that gives us great pleasure. What else is different from your kind? Oh, we have no navel because we were born in a different way to your mammal birth. The other exterior differences from your kind are minor, and I think I must not mention all now because most of them are not visible if we wear clothing. I hope the description of my body was detailed enough. I would advise you to make some drawings. Question: what kind of clothing do you generally wear? I suppose this is not the way you dress normally. Answer: no, I wear this human everyday clothing only when I'm among humans. To be honest, it's not very comfortable for me to wear such tight things, and it is always a very unusual feeling. If we are in our own home, this means our subterranean home, in our large artificial sun areas, and if we are together with others near to our own name, we are usually naked. Is this shocking for you? When we are in public and together with many others of my species, we wear very wide and soft clothing made of thin, light stuff. Okay? I have told you that many parts of our bodies are very touch sensitive, mostly the small back plates, so we can't feel comfortable in tight clothing because it can hurt us. Men and women wear often the same kind of clothing, but the colors are different for the sexes. Question: you said others near to your own name. Do you mean your family? Answer: no, not really. You would call it family, but with this word you mean only those of your kind which belong genetically together, like father or mother and child. As I've said earlier, we have a very difficult and unique name. Part of the pronunciation of that name is absolutely unique, and there is no other being with the same name. But part of this name, the middle part, is pronounced in a way that told the others to which family, I must use the word because you haven't the right one in your vocabulary, you belong. This means not all in that group are genetically related to you because these groups are usually very large and contain between 40 and 70 of us. This group includes generally your genetic relations, except one of them had decided to leave this group. And your connection with father and mother is often the strongest. It would be too difficult for me to explain you now our very old social system, which is very complex, and we would need many hours only for the primary things. Maybe we can meet another time and I can give you a detailed description of these things. These are like really interesting takes. Like, just whether this is real or not, let's just say it's a hoax. Like the intricate details are very interesting. Like if this is a hoax, it's very creative writing. It's very well thought out. They're picking up on details that I think most people would not think about. Question. Have you a tail like normal reptiles? Answer. Do you see one? No. We have no visible tail. If you look at our skeleton, there is only a small rounded bone at the end of our spine behind the pelvis. This is a useless rudiment of the tail of our ancestors, but it is not visible from the outside. Oh, our embryos have tails during the first months of development, but these tails disappear before they're born. A tail makes only sense for a primitive species which tries to walk on two legs and must hold the balance with the tail. But our skeleton has changed during evolution and our spine is nearly in the same shape as yours, so we need no tail to stay on 2 feet. Question. You said that you were born in a different way to us. Do you lay eggs in Antarctica? Answer. Yes, but not like your birds or primitive reptiles. Actually, the embryo grows in a protein liquid inside the mother's womb. But there is also an egg-shaped but very thin chalk hull around it that fills the whole womb. The embryo inside the hull is completely autarky from the mother's body, and it has every substance it needs to develop inside this chalk hull. There is also a cord, like your navel cord, which is connected to a point hidden behind the back plates. When the baby is going to be born, the whole egg is pressed through the vagina, covered in a slimy protein substance, and the baby comes out of this soft egg after some minutes. These two horns on our middle fingers were instinctively used from babies to break through the chalk hull to take the first breath. Interesting. Again, if this is fake, it's like very creative writing, like linking these things together. How she was describing, they've got these little horns on their middle fingers, and now they're saying that they are instinctively used to kind of break through this membrane when they're born. Our young are not so large as your babies when they were born. They are about 30 and 35 of your centimeters tall. The egg is around 40 centimeters tall. This is because our vagina is smaller than a human one, but we grow to a normal size of 60 to 180. Oh, right. That's meant to be a full stop. So we grow to a normal size of 160 centimeters or 180 centimeters. Gotcha. What about your body temperature? You've said that you enjoy to lay in the sun. What effect has this to your organism? Man, this broken English it's doing me in, but I'm doing my best, guys. Answer. We are no mammals, and as reptiles, our body temperature depends on the temperature of our surrounding. If you touch my hand, you will maybe feel that it is colder than yours, because our normal body temperature is around 30 to 33 degrees Celsius. If we sit in the sun, especially naked and with our row of small backplates in the sun, our body temperature can rise for 8 to 9 degrees within minutes. This rise can causes a production of many enzymes and hormones in our body. Our heart and brain and every organ becomes more active, and we feel then very, very good. You humans only enjoy being in the sun, but for us it is the greatest pleasure you can imagine, maybe like your sexual excitement. So these lizards get horny in the sun, is what Lacerta is telling us. We also enjoy swimming in very warm water or other liquids to rise our body temperature. If we are for some hours in the shadows, our temperature goes back to 30 to 33 degrees. This can cause no harm to us, but we feel much better in the sun. We have artificial sunrooms in the underground, but this is not the same for us like the real sun. Question. What do you eat? Generally various things like you. Flesh, fruit, vegetables, special kinds of fungus from subterranean farms, and other things. We can also eat and digest some substances which are poisonous for you. The main difference between you and us is that we must eat flesh because our body needs the proteins. We can't live completely vegetarian like your kind because our digestion would stop working and we would die after some weeks or maybe months without flesh. Many of us eat raw flesh or other things which would be disgusting for you. Personally, I prefer cooked flesh and surface fruits like apples and oranges. Now, the use of the word flesh instead of meat could just be the translation from this Swedish person into English or whoever translated it. Or it's like a cheesy attempt at like horror science fiction writing. Sorry, I had to get that in. We got a lot to read through. What do you guys think, though? Do you agree with me? Like the word flesh, it sounds a bit like, it's trying to scare you. But anyway, okay, we've got the long answer disclaimer here, so we've got a big question coming up. The question is, can you tell me something about the natural history and evolution of your species? How old is your species? Have you evolved from primitive reptiles as mankind has evolved from apes? Answer. Oh, this is a very long and complex story, and it sounds certainly unbelievable to you, but it is the truth. I will try to explain it in short. Around 65 million years ago, many of our unadvanced ancestors from the dinosaur race died in a great global cataclysm. The reason for this destruction was not a natural disaster, an asteroid impact as your scientists falsely believe, but a war between two enemy alien groups that took mainly place in the orbit and high atmosphere of your planet. According to our limited knowledge about the early days, this global war was the first alien war on planet Earth, but it was definitely not the last, and a future war is coming soon. While a Cold War, as you call it, between alien groups is ongoing since the last 73 years on your planet, the opponents in this 65 million year old war were two advanced alien species, whose both names are again not pronounceable for your tongues. I'm able to say them, but it would hurt your ear if I tell you the names in their original way. Convenient. What's interesting here, though, is again, like I would love, man, I would love when the channel gets big enough and I can actually get some interesting people on the channel, like Dr. Courtney Brown, who in his last interview was saying that we are in a cold war between alien species on this planet. I would love to ask him and just throw it out there casually and be like, "Hey, Courtney, have you happened to have maybe read this thing called the Lacerta Files?" And just see what I just want to gauge his reaction because, like, we're reading this. This was published in 1999, and it's backing up the things that he is saying today. So, like, okay, have Dr. Courtney Brown, who teaches at a university with a doctorate and a master's degree and a bachelor's degree, are you copying internet fiction to make up a story for your company? Or do these dots actually align and the truth is actually way stranger than fiction? Remember, in the video that we just did where we were looking at Stephen Greer, he said that the people at the CIA told him, don't tell the whole truth because it will discredit you. He said the truth is just so crazy that people just won't they won't accept it. It's just too crazy. People just won't believe you. Continuing on, she says, one race was a humanoid like your species, but much older, and was from this universe, from a solar system in the star constellation you call Procyon? Okay, that's what we're going with. The other species, about which we know not so much, was a reptilian species, but they have nothing to do with our own species because we have evolved from local saurians without exterior influence, except the successful manipulation of our own genes by us. More about that later. The advanced reptilian species came not from this universe, but from how should I explain it to you? Your scientists have not really understood the true nature of the universe because your illogical mind is not able to see the easiest things and relies on wrong mathematics and numbers. This is part of the genetic programming of your kind, to which I'll come to later. Let me say that you are nearly as far away from the understanding of the universe as you were 500 years ago. Fantastic. To use a term you will maybe understand, the other species came not from this universe, but from another bubble in the foam of the omniverse. You would call it maybe another dimension, but this is not the right word to describe it correctly. By the way, the term dimension is generally wrong in the way that you understand it. The fact you should remember is that advanced species are able to walk between bubbles by use of, as you would call it, quantum technology, and sometimes in special ways only by using their mind. My own species had also advanced mental abilities in comparison to your species, but we are not able to do the matter string bubble changing without technology. But other species active on this planet are able, and this looks to you like magic as it had to your ancestors. That's probably how religion started. Back to our own history, the first species, the humanoids, had reached Earth around 150 years before the reptilians, and they built some colonies on the former continents. There were a large colony on the continent that you call Antarctica today, and another one on the continent that you call Asia. These people lived together with animal-like saurians. I don't know what that word is. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but hit me in the comments if you can help me out. When the advanced reptilian species arrived in this system, the humanoid colonists from Procyon tried to communicate peacefully, but they were not successful, and a global war started within months. You must understand that both species were interested in this young planet not for his biology and undeveloped species, but for only one reason: raw material, especially copper. To understand this reason, you must know that copper is a very important material for some advanced species, even today, because it is, together with some unstable materials, able to produce new stable elements if you induce a high electromagnetic field in the right angle with a high nuclear radiation field to produce an overcrossing of fluctuating fields. The fusion of copper with other elements in such a magnetic radiation field chamber can produce a force field of special nature that is very useful for various technological tasks. But the base for this is an extremely complex formula you are not able to discover because of the restrictions of your simple mind. Lacerta loves throwing a bit of casual shade on the humans, doesn't she? I mean, I agree with her. We are apes, but, relax. Both species wanted to have the copper of planet Earth, and for this reason, they fought a not very long war in space and orbit. The humanoid species seemed to be successful during the first time, but in the last battle, the reptilians decided to use a mighty experimental weapon, a special kind of fusion bomb which should destroy the life forms on the planet, but should not harm the valuable raw materials and the copper. The bomb was fired from space and detonated at a point of your planet you call Middle America. Like Central America, I'm guessing she's saying. As it detonated in the ocean, it produced an unpredictable fusion with hydrogen, and the effect was much stronger than the reptilians had expected. A deadly radiation, an overproduction of fusion oxygen, a fallout of different elements, and a nuclear winter for nearly 200 years were the result. Most of the humanoids were killed, and the reptilians lost their interest on the planet after some years. Even for us, unknown reasons, maybe because of the radiation. Planet Earth was on its own again, and the animals on the surface died. By the way, one result of the fusion bomb was the fallout of different elements and materials created in the burning process, and one of those materials was iridium. Your human scientists today see the iridium concentration in the ground as an evidence for an asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs. That is not true. But how should you know that? Well, most of the dinosaurs died, not all in the detonation, but in the bad things which came after the war, especially in the nuclear winter and in the fallout. Nearly all dinosaurs and reptilians were dead within the next 20 years. Some of them, especially those in the oceans, were able to survive for the next 200 to 300 years, even in this changed world. But these species also died because the climate had changed. The nuclear winter ended after 200 years, but it was colder on Earth than before. Despite the cataclysm, some species were able to survive. Fish, sharks, birds, little creepy mammals, your ancestors, various reptiles like crocodiles, and there was a special kind of small but advanced dinosaurs which had developed together with the last large animal reptilians like the species you call Tyrannosaurus. This new reptile was walking on two legs and looked a little bit like your reconstruction of a iguanodon. It originated in this family, but it was smaller, around 1.5 meters tall with some humanoid features, a changed bone structure, a larger skull and brain, a hand with a thumb which was able to grab things, a different organism and digestion, advanced eyes in the middle of the head like your eyes, and most important, with a new and better brain structure. This was our direct ancestor. So I think this new reptile was walking on two legs with the last large reptilian species. So I think she's saying, right, so like a mutated species grew out of this nuclear winter that was most similar to a Tyrannosaurus with opposable thumbs, eyes in the middle of its head rather than on the side. Okay, I got it. There are theories that the radiation from the bomb took part in the mutations of the organism of this new breed, but this is not proven. Nevertheless, this little humanoid-like dinosaur evolved during the following 30 million years. As I have said earlier, a species need generally more time to evolve than you think, if the evolution is not artificially induced, like in your case, from an animal to a more or less thinking being. These beings were intelligent enough not to die in the next millions of years because they learned to change their behavior. They lived in caves instead of the cold nature, and they learned to use stones and branches as first tools and the use of fire as help to warm them, especially to warm their blood, which is very important for our kind to survive. During the next 20 million years, this species was divided by nature into 27 subspecies. Unfortunately, former reptilian species were prone to divide themselves in a more or less illogical way into subspecies during the evolution process. You can clearly see in the unnecessary high number of animal dinosaur species in earlier times, and there were many, mainly primitive, wars between this subspecies for dominance. Right, so all these reptilians divided and started trying to kill each other. Sounds a lot like humans. Well, nature was not very friendly to us, and as far as we know, from the 27 subspecies, 24 were extinct in primitive wars and in evolution because their organism and mind was not developed enough to survive, and, as a main reason, they were not able to change their blood temperature in the right way if the climate changed. It's interesting how she's saying like their species died off because their mind and organism wasn't able to develop enough to survive. Because we've spoke a lot on this channel about how the way the world is right now, people need to start getting a better grip of their mind, raise their consciousness, stop hating each other, develop some empathy and understanding. Otherwise, we're going to end up like the 24 reptilian species. 50 million years after the war and after the end of the dinosaurs, only 3, now also technological, advanced reptilian species were remaining on this planet together with all the other lower animals. Through natural and artificial crossbreeding, these 3 species were united to one reptilian species, and through the invention of genetic manipulations, we were able to eliminate the dividing prone genes in our genetic structure. According to our history and belief, this was the time when our final reptilian race, as you see me today, was created by use of genetic engineering. This was around 10 million years ago, and our evolution nearly stopped at this point. Well, actually, there were some minor changes in our look toward a more humanoid and mammal-like appearance during the coming ages, but we have not divided again into subspecies. You see, we are a very old race in comparison to your kind, which was jumping around as small monkey-like animals in the trees at this time, while we invented technology, colonized other planets of this system, built large cities on this planet, which disappeared without a trace in the ages, and engineered our own genes while your genes were still those of animals. 10 million years ago, the small simians started to grow and they came down from the trees to the ground. Again, because of the change of climate, especially on the so-called African continent. But they evolved very slow, as it is normal for a mammal, and if nothing extraordinary had happened to your kind, we wouldn't even be able to sit here and talk, because I would sit in my comfortable modern house, and you would sit in your cave, clothed with fur, and trying to discover the secrets of fire. Or you would maybe sit in one of our zoos. See, like stuff like that, I don't know. That's a weird comment to make, but I'm not a reptilian. Maybe it isn't. But the things had developed differently, and you believe now you are the crown of creation, and you can sit in the modern house, and we must hide and live beneath the earth and in remote areas. Around 1.5 million years ago, another alien species arrived at Earth. It was surprisingly the first species since over 60 million years. This would be more surprising for you if you would know how many different species are here today. The interest of this humanoid species, you call them the Elohim today, was not a raw material So the Elohim were not interested in raw material and copper. It was, to their astonishment, the unadvanced ape humanoids. Okay, so we were the interest of the ones that we call the Elohim. Despite our presence on this planet, the aliens decided to help the apes to evolve a little bit faster to serve them in the future as some kind of slave race in coming wars. The fate of your species was not really important for us, but we didn't like the presence of the Elohim on our planet, and they didn't like our presence on their new galactic zoo planet. And so your sixth and seventh creation was the reason for a war between us and them. You can read about that war, for example, partly in the book you call Bible, in a very strange way of description. The real truth is very long and a difficult story. Should I continue? The author says, no, not now. I've made some notes about your history and now I have some questions. Please ask. First of all, you handle with a very large timescale. You claim that your primitive ancestors lived together with the dinosaurs, survived the, as you call it, artificial cataclysm, and evolved then over 40 million years, and your evolution was completed 10 million years ago. This sounds very unbelievable to me. Can you say something on this? Answer. I understand that this must sound absolutely unbelievable to you because you are a young and genetically engineered species. Your historical horizon ends at a scale of some thousands of years, and you think this is right, but it isn't. This is impossible. Your programmed mind is obviously not able to handle with such large timescales. Our evolution time may seem incredibly long to you, but this is in fact the original way of nature. Remember, your early mammal ancestors developed together with dinosaurs, and they survived the bomb like us. They evolved slowly during the next millions of years, and they divided into various species and shapes, some of them larger, some of them smaller. This is evolution of the body. But what about their mind and intelligence? They were simple animals. The mammals evolved since, let us say, 150 million of years, but only in the last 2 to 3 million years, they were able to become intelligent and thinking. And within this small period, beings like you were created. From nature, 148 millions of years' time for the evolution of animal-like mammals, 2 million years' time for the development of more or less intelligent beings like you. Ask yourself, do you really think this is accelerated evolution? Do you really think this accelerated evolution is natural? Then your species is more ignorant than I've thought. We have not evolved wrong, but you. So if you were struggling to listen to my terrible reading of this broken English, what she's saying there is basically like, look at how long you've been on this planet. Look how much you've advanced in just the last tiny fraction of time. Are you actually dumb enough to think that this is normal and natural? Question. I understand, but I have another question. You've mentioned many facts about the ancient war between the aliens 65 million years ago. This happened very long before your kind became really intelligent, as far as I've understood you. Why do you know so many things about that first war and about the evolution of your species? Answer. That is a good question, much better than the previous, and I have not explained it properly to you. Our knowledge about the First War comes completely from an ancient artifact which was found around 16,000 years ago from our archaeologists on the continent you call North America today. They found there a round plate with a diameter of approximately 47 of your centimeters. The plate was made of an, even for us, unknown magnetic material, and inside the plate there was another smaller crystal plate which contained an enormous amount of information coded in the molecular structure of the crystal. This memory plate was manufactured from the last bomb survivors of human race from the Procyon. That word's killing me. Already 65 million years ago, but it was completely intact when we found it. Our scientists were able to encode the messages and data, and so we heard the first time about the events which took place in the distant past and which led to the extinction of the dinosaurs. The plate contained detailed descriptions of both species, but more about the humanoids and about the events and weapons, including the fusion bomb. It contained also a description of the animals, saurians on Earth, including our pre-intelligent ancestor species. The rest of our knowledge about our evolution comes from skeletons and from the back reading and de-encoding of our DNA. You see, we know the real truth about our roots since 16,000 years ago. Before that time, there was a more religious idea of our creation. So, like, that's kind of wild when you think about it. Again, assuming this is all real. That, you know, she's saying their history dates back millions and millions of years, but they only realized that in the last, well, they only got a full picture of it 16,000 years ago, which comparatively is like yesterday compared to the time scale that we're talking about. Question. What have happened with both alien species? Answer. We don't know exactly. The surviving humanoids on Earth obviously died in the years after the bomb, and others of their kind and the reptilians never came back to Earth, as far as we know. Concerning the reptilian aliens, there is a possibility that it was physically impossible for them to return because the matter between bubbles is sometimes in rapid movement. The current theory is that both species had ceased to exist during the millions of years. Question. You've mentioned skeletons of your kind. How can it be? The human scientists haven't found any trace of you and your ancestors if you really lived for such a long time on this planet. We found many skeletons of primitive dinosaurs, but none of an advanced reptilian being with a larger skull and brain and a hand with a thumb, as you have described before. Answer. Yes, you have. But your great scientists were not able to reconstruct the skeletons completely because they wanted to reconstruct reptilian animals, not intelligent beings. You would laugh if you would know how many of the especially small saurian skeletons in your museums are totally wrong constructions of never existing beings, because you use many bones which don't really belong together, and sometimes you made artificial bones if something was missing you needed to construct an animal. Many of your scientists are aware of this problem, but they don't make it public because they can't explain it, and they claim that the right bones were just missing and their reconstruction is right. That's classic arrogant humans, right? Many bones of us were used for iguanodon reconstructions. For example, the hands with the visible thumb. Look at an iguanodon in a museum and you will see that I'm right. A scientist in the country you call United States had built a nearly correct skeleton of our kind some years ago, but the local government, which is partly aware of our existence, confiscated the reconstruction. As we live today, and since thousands of years, nearly completely beneath the earth, you will not find any cadavers or skeletons of us. You speak sometimes about underground cities and artificial sunlight. Do you mean something like a hollow earth with this? Is there a second sun inside our planet? Answer. No, Earth is not really completely hollow and there is no second sun inside. This story is ridiculous and physically not possible. Even your species should be intelligent enough to not believe this. Do you know how much mass a sun must have to produce energy and light for a longer time by fusion? Do you really think that there could be a small active sun inside the planet? No, that I will back Lacerta there. That is a dumb question. When I talk about our subterranean home, I talk about large cave systems. The caves you have discovered near to the surface are tiny in comparison to real caves and huge caverns deeper in the earth. In a depth of 2,000 to 8,000 of your meters, but connected with many hidden tunnels to the surface or to surface near caves. And we live in large and advanced cities and colonies inside such caves. Major sites of us are beyond the Arctic, the Antarctic, Inner Asia, North America, and Australia. If I talk about artificial sunlight in our cities, I don't mean a real sun, but various technological sources of light, including gravitational sources, which illuminates the caverns and tunnels. There are special cave areas and tunnels with a strong UV light in every city, and we use those places to heat our blood. Furthermore, we have some surface sun places in remote areas, especially in America and Australia. Reptiles in the outback confirmed. Question, where can we find such a surface near entry to your world? Answer, do you really think I would tell you that exact location? If you want to find such an entry, you'd have to search for it by yourself, but I would advise that you don't do that. When I came to the surface 4 days ago, I used an entry approximately 300 of your kilometers north from here to a large lake. But I doubt that you would be able to find it. There are only few entries in this part of the world where are far more north and east. Now look, just a quick thing I thought of there. This interview took place in Sweden, allegedly. And she's saying 300 kilometers north from here, near a large lake. Now, if any of you guys watch Chris Lado, I reckon like a year ago, he was in, I'm pretty sure it was Sweden, and they were doing some kind of UFO excavation or like they were focusing on a lake. There was something to do with a lake, and he had like a team of Swedish guys there that were telling him about, you know, the stories about this lake, and there had been lots of sightings and weird things going on. I think they had even thought like there should be something at the bottom of the lake. If that rings a bell for anyone, get in the comments, because I'm pretty sure it was Sweden. If those dots connect, if anyone's with me on that, you know, help me out here. Help me out. Help us all out. As a little advice, if you are in a narrow cave or in a tunnel or even in something that looks like like an artificial mine shaft, and as deeper you walk, as smooth and Man, this English is killing me. As deeper you walk, as smoother appear the walls, and if you feel unusual warm air streaming from the depth, or if you hear the rushing sound of streaming air in a ventilation or elevator shaft, then look for a special kind of artificial and smooth wall somewhere in the cave with a door made of grey metal. So she's basically explaining if you're in a cave or a shaft and you start to notice the walls are getting smooth, you're in a reptilian's house. If you would be able to open that door, but I doubt this, you would be in a usually round technical room with ventilation systems and elevators to the depth. This is probably an entry to our world. If you have reached this point, you should know that we are now definitely aware of your presence. You are already in big trouble if you have entered the round room, but you should look for one of the 2 reptilian symbols on the walls. If there are no symbols or other symbols, you are maybe in bigger trouble as you think, because not every underground installation belongs to our kind. Some new tunnel systems are operated from alien races, including hostile races. My general advice is if you find yourself in a, for you, strange underground installation, run away as fast as you can. Question. You mentioned earlier that you use the name Lacerta when you are among humans and that you enjoy to be in the real sun on the surface of the earth. But how can you be among humans? You don't look like us. So anyone will see that you belong to another species. Why have nobody seen and described a being like you if your kind lives already since our creation together with us on the same planet? Can you explain that to me? Answer. First, my kind was of course seen and described and worshipped many times in your primitive past. For example, in your religious writings like your Christian Bible, you can find descriptions and even simple drawings of us, or also in the southern part of the American continent on various temples. So-called wise men from India and from the Asian mountains have described our species many times in the writings. Together with other wise men from the African continent, I think we are the most mentioned non-human species, maybe besides the Elohim, in your history. If you don't believe me, have a look at your history and you will see the truth in my words. Now, there is a, who is the African guy that David Icke always references? And there's that video of him talking. There's like this African elder tribal leader man, and he's speaking candidly on camera about like the known and, like for him, it's like, yes, everyone knows about the reptilians. Yes. Like they've been here for thousands of years. Like everyone knows this. I can picture the video, but I just can't think of the guy's name because it's definitely not like a Western name. If anyone knows that video, link it in the comments, please. Your great scientists called the belief in us superstition and religion, and today's intelligent humans have forgotten our presence on the surface in the past. Furthermore, our species is seen even today sometimes from human witnesses in its original shape on Earth or in our surface near entries and tunnel systems. But fortunately, you and your media didn't take the reports of such crazies seriously. That's good for us, and that's the reason why we allow those people to see us as we really are. That's funny. So like, they know that no one's going to believe them, so they don't care if some people see them. So like, they use our arrogance to their advantage. Some of my species are also in direct contact with human scientists and politicians from the surface. Okay. But this is top secret, as you would call it, and nobody of your public knows anything about it. The matter of these meetings is generally the upcoming war with and between the alien species and our assistance in this war. But there is also another explanation why we can't walk among you and why you are not able to recognize us. Mimicry. Okay, there's a lot to unpack in this one. First of all, well, we basically went through the first part, right? They rely on the fact that no one believes anything that disrupts their mold of reality. So they know that no one's going to believe you if you say you've seen a lizard person, which, it's fair. Like, that's not, I get that. I get that. And he says, some of my species are in direct contact with human scientists, politicians from the surface, but this is top secret. Right. Okay. So you remember how Tom DeLonge was saying there are reptilians and all this kind of stuff, but they pose them as evil. Everyone talks about them as evil, but these people are saying that's not the case. And these meetings are generally about the upcoming war between the alien species. And, you know, that makes me think about like the Lou Elizondo clip that I've showed on this channel where he says like the very act of disclosure will trigger something that we're not ready for. Something we've been preparing for 50 years, but we're not ready yet. These are Elizondo quotes. Courtney Brown speaks of the fact that we're in a Cold War. In the last video we did, that full podcast, I don't know if, I'm pretty sure I had the clip, but he says we're in a alien Cold War right now. And like the nature of disclosure is going to turn the war hot. Like that's what's going to happen. And this, you know, all of this stuff lines up. But again, I would love to like just candidly, casually mention the Lacerta Files to Courtney Brown and just see his reaction. You know, did he build his entire empire off of these texts? I'm going to say probably not, but you know, it'd be interesting to gauge how he reacts to that question. The following may again sound unbelievable and even shocking to you, but as you have asked, I will explain it. I've told you before that we have more advanced mental abilities than your species, and with more advanced, I mean that we are able to use telepathy and telekinesis from our birth. In fact, mother and newborn child communicate generally with telepathy during the first few months, without special training, and as you need to activate these sleeping, without special training as you need it to activate these sleeping parts of your brain. The structure of our brain is a little bit different to yours, and our hypothesis is larger and more active than yours, especially when we are in sunlight. I don't know if some of these words are wrong, but I'm just reading it as it is. Our own abilities are very strong in comparison to yours, but weak in comparison to the matter string bubble mind forces of some of the alien species on this planet. So they're saying we have way better telepathy than you, but there are other aliens here that are way better than us. I was never very good in that mind things, but we all have these primary abilities and can use them, for example, for our protection or even for attack. When we're on the surface, we meet human beings, even a large group of them, this makes no difference. All of your minds are like one mind. We are able to touch their mind and induce them via telepathy and command, see us as one of your kind. And the weak human mind will accept this order without refusion, and they will see us, despite our reptilian look, as normal humans. So again, yeah, this is all stuff we know, right? When it comes to reptilians, we know that that's what they do. I've done this many times, and as you weak humans generally see me as an attractive brown-haired woman because I have created this special mimicry image in my mind years ago, and I can induce it into your minds without problems. I've needed some time at the beginning to learn the use of mimicry correctly, but then it worked nearly automatically, and I can even walk among a group of yours and nobody will recognize what I am. There is a simple switch. See us as we really are. See us as we want you to see us. In your consciousness, which was placed there from the Elohim when they created your kind, and we can use this switch to convince you that you see humans when you look at us. Other aliens use this switch too. So we apparently have something in our brain that they can just play with so we can't see them properly, according to these transcripts. It is easier as you think. When there are meetings between your kind and aliens, which seem to look exactly like yours, these aliens have used that switch, and some of the meetings with man-like aliens can also be explained with meetings of my kind. That was a terrible, I read that word for word. It was a terrible translation. Even I don't understand it. When I met EF the first time, he saw me also as a normal human woman, and I remember that he was very frightened and shocked when I revealed to him my appearance. Question: do you mean that you can really make me believe that I talk now with an attractive brown-haired woman instead of a reptilian being like you? Drink break. Answer: probably. But I don't think so in your special case. When someone expects to see a human woman instead of me, I can do it without problems with his mind, even with large groups, because nobody expects to see a reptile woman. But I have allowed your mind to see me in my original appearance from our first meeting on, and I have never induced something into your mind, so you have already realized that I'm not human. If I would now try to change this, it would probably lead to an absolute confusion or to unconsciousness, and I don't want to harm you. As I've said, I'm not very good in these things. Question: that's very scary. Can you kill with those abilities? Answer, yes, but it's forbidden. This means not that it was not done in previous times. Question, have both sexes these abilities? Answer, yes. Question, what about photos? How do you appear on photos? Answer, this is a silly question. I appear on photos as a reptile being because I can't have influence on the photo or on the camera itself, but only on the photographer's mind. If he or she would develop the film and show the photo to others, they would see me in my original shape. That's the reason why it is forbidden for our kind to be filmed or photographed, and we must avoid every camera on the surface. That is very difficult, and we were filmed sometimes in the past without our knowledge, especially from certain of your governments and secret agencies. Question. What other commands can your kind induce into our minds? Something like serve us or obey. Answer. This again is a strange question. We are not your enemy. Most of us aren't. So why would we do this? To answer your question, it depends on the strength of the human mind and on the strength of the sending reptilian. There is no serve us or serve me switch in your mind, so such a command is much more difficult to induce. If the human mind and consciousness is weak and the reptilian inducer is experienced in these things and was some hours in the sun before he or she tries to do it, then it could probably work for a certain time. There are secret teachings about such things, but I've never learned anything about it. I use my primary abilities for mimicry and for communication with my own kind and sometimes for other private things, but I've never used it to harm humans or their mind. I would appreciate it if we can end this topic here. I wonder if, that is, that she's saying it can work if the human mind is weak and the inducers is strong. I wonder if that's, when we talk about people being possessed in a bad way, is this in the realm of what we're talking about? Question, a last question. You said earlier that you can hide your UFOs. Do you use the same abilities to do this? Answer, yes, but on a technical base. There is a powerful device inside each craft which is able to send an artificial signal to your minds to convince you that you see either nothing but only the sky, or that you see normal aircraft like planes instead of our ships. New Jersey drones, anyone? This isn't used very often because we avoid human public when we move in the atmosphere. If you're able to see our UFOs, it means that the device is either defect or deactivated for some reason. The camouflage effect didn't work on photos. To answer this possible question of you already in advance, but why should someone make a photo of the sky when he could not see anything unusual there? By the way, most of the surface near entry points to our tunnels are also hidden with such a device, and your kind will generally see only normal cave walls instead of the door. That's one reason why I've said that I doubt you will be able to find such a secret door to our world, but it has happened a few times in the past. Okay, we've got another long question coming up. Back to your and our own history. You've mentioned the race of the Elohim, who have created our human race. From where did they come and how did they look like? What had exactly happened when they arrived? Are they our God? Answer. The Elohim came from this universe, from the solar system you call Aldebaran in your maps. They were a very tall humanoid species with usually blonde hairs and very white skin. They avoided the sunlight because it hurt their skin and their eyes. This was absolutely unbelievable for a sun-loving species like us. They seemed to be intelligent and peaceful at the beginning, and we started a more or less friendly communication with them. But later they showed their real intentions and plans. They wanted to evolve the apes to a new breed, and we were a disturbing factor for them on their new zoo planet. At first, they caught around 10,000 or maybe 20,000 of your simian ancestors, and they left the planet for some 100 years. When they returned, they brought your now more human ancestors back. Damn, so they took us back to the factory and then came back and deployed us. Then they left Earth again for some thousands of years, and the primitive pre-humans lived together with us without major problems. They were just afraid of our aircraft and technology. The Elohim taught their mind and enhanced their brain and their body structure, and they were now able to use tools and fire. The Elohim returned within 23,000 years 7 times and accelerated the evolution speed of certain of your kind. You must understand that you are not the first human civilization on the planet. The the first advanced humans who lived at the same time with less developed pre-humans because the Elohim had experimented with different speeds and stages of evolution. With technology and speech existed around 700,000 years ago on this planet, your scientists have not understand this because they've found only the bones of the pre-humans and some primitive cave drawings showing humans and flying devices. Again, guys, I'm sorry. I'm just reading the words as they are on this thing, and like sometimes they're put together terribly in the context of English. But hopefully you guys are following along and you're still getting what I'm saying. This genetically advanced human breed lived together with us, but they avoided contact with my kind because the Elohim teachers had warned them with misleading purpose that we are evil beings and that we lie to them. Well, after some centuries, the aliens decided to extinct their first creation, and they accelerated the evolution of a second and better test series, and so on and so on. The truth is that your modern human civilization is not the first on this planet, but already the seventh. The buildings of the first breeds are lost, but the fifth civilization was the one which built the large triangular constructions you call Egyptian pyramids, today around 75,000 years ago. Your Egyptians just found that large ancient pyramid in the sand and tried not very successful to build similar constructions. And the sixth civilization was the one which built the cities, which ruins you can find today beneath the sea in the so-called Bimini area around 16,000 years ago. The last creation of the seventh breed of your series was done just 8,500 years ago, and this is the only creation you can remember and to which your religious writings refer. You rely on archaeological and paleontological artifacts which show you a wrong and short past, but how should you know anything about the six civilizations before? And if you find evidence for their existence, you deny and misinterpret the facts. This is partly a programming of your mind and partly pure ignorance. I will tell you in the following only about your creations, because the six previous mankinds are lost, and therefore they should not concern you. There was a long war between us and the Elohim, and also between certain groups of the Elohim themselves, because many of them were the opinion that the again and again creation of human species on this planet make no real sense. The last battles in this war were fought around 5,000 years ago in orbit and surface. The aliens used powerful sonic weapons to destroy our underground cities, but on the other hand, we were able to destroy many of their surface installations and bases in space. The humans of your series were very frightened when they observed our battles, and they wrote it down in form of religious myths. Their mind was not able to understand what was really going on. The Elohim, who appeared as gods for the sixth and seventh breed, told them that it is a war between good and evil, and they are the good and we are the evil race. This depends certainly on the point of view. If it was our planet before they arrived and before they started their evolution project with your kind. In my opinion, it was our right to fight for our planet. It was exactly 4,943 years ago, according to your timescale, that the Elohim left this planet, again for unknown reasons. This is a very important date for us because many of our historians call it a victory. Fact is that we don't know what had really happened. The Elohim were gone from one day to another. They vanished without a trace together with their ships, and we found most of their surface installations destroyed by them. The humans were on their own and your civilization developed. Many of us were in contact with certain more southern tribes of your species in the coming centuries, and we were able to convince some of them that we are not the evil the aliens wanted them to believe. Interesting. During the time from 4,900 years ago to today, many other alien species arrived on the planet. Some of them used the old teachings and programming of your mind and played again God for you, but the Elohim themselves never came back. They had left the planet for a duration of some thousands of years, also earlier, so we expect their return one day in the future to end their project or to maybe extinct also the seventh breed, but we really don't know what have happened to them to answer this question for you in advance. Your current civilization doesn't know anything about your real origin, about your real past, about your real world and universe. You know very little about us and our past. And you know nothing about the things to come in the near future. As long as you will not understand and believe my words, I tell you the truth because we are not your enemy. As long as there is danger for your species, your enemy are already here and you have not understood. Open your eyes or you will be in big trouble soon. If you have believed anything of the things I told you before, then you should really believe and remember this. Question: why don't you think I believe you? Answer: I have a certain feeling that you don't believe me, despite the fact that I'm sitting here in front of you. Everything I've told you in the last 2 hours is the absolute truth about our world. Question: how many alien species are active on Earth at the moment? Answer: as far as we know, 14 species, 11 from this universe, 2 from another bubble, and 1 very advanced from a very different plane. Don't ask me for names because nearly all are not pronounceable for you. 8 of them are not pronounceable even for us. Most of the species, especially the more advanced, are just studying you as animals, and they are not very dangerous for you and for us, and we work together with some of them. But 3 species are hostile, including the one which was in contact with some of your governments and exchanged their technology for copper and other important things which had betrayed your kind. There was and is a Cold War between 2 of these hostile races during the last 73 years. And the 3rd species seemed to be the winner in this useless struggle. We expect a more hot war between them and you in the near future. I would say in the next 10 to 20 years. And we are worried about that development. In the last time, there were some rumors about a new 15th species which had arrived on Earth just 3 or 4 years ago. But we don't know anything about their intentions, and they were not in contact with them till now. Maybe the rumors are wrong. Question: what do the hostile alien races want? Answer: various raw materials, including copper for their technology, your water, or better, the hydrogen in your water, which is a source of energy in advanced fusion processes, and certain chemical elements within your air. Furthermore, 2 of the species are also interested in your body, in your human tissue and blood, because their own genetic structure is defect through bad evolution and radiation, as far as we know. And they need intact strings from your kind and from animals to repair their own genetics again and again. But they are not really able to repair the defects completely because their DNA and your DNA is not fully compatible. My own species is absolutely incompatible with them, so they are not very interested in us, and they try to make more compatible crossbreeds between you and them by use of artificial fertilizations and artificial wombs. We suppose that the coming war between the 3 races, or between you and one or all of them, will be fought for raw material, hydrogen, air, and DNA. Question: is this the reason for the abductions? Answer: partly, especially when the aliens took egg and sperm samples from you. Sometimes the abductors belong to another and more advanced race, and they just want to study your body and your mind, which is more interesting for some of them than your solid body, as you would study a primitive animal. As I've said, 3 alien species are hostile. This means that they do not care for your fate or for your life, and people who were abducted by them came very rarely back alive. If someone is able to report about an abduction, it means, in my opinion, that he or she has not met one of the aggressive species, or that he or she is a very lucky human to be alive. Advanced and friendly races also took sometimes egg and sperm samples, but for other reasons. Question: you've said there are only 14 species active on Earth, but why describe people who saw alien beings, so many different and bizarre types of them? Answer: I think I've already answered this question. As I've said, most of the alien races have much more advanced mind abilities than you or even me. There is just one alien race completely without such abilities. They are able to appear in your mind and memory as whatever they want, and this induced image has nothing to do with their real appearance. You remember them as normal humans or grey dwarfs, or even extremely bizarre animals because they want you to remember that, or sometimes they want you to completely forget anything about a meeting with them. Sounds like she's referring to the greys there. Another example, you can, for example, remember that you were just in a normal of your human hospitals and that some doctors were examining you, and you think not further about what have happened to you. Maybe till you discover that there is no hospital in the street where you supposed it, but in fact you were examined by them in one of their laboratories. You can't rely on your mind in this case. They appear in different shapes to you to confuse you and to make so-called abduction witnesses who were able to remember the events, or who believe they are able to remember, ridiculous in the public, and as far as we know, they are successful. Believe me, there are only 14 alien species on this planet, and only 8 of them abduct humans at the moment, again, as far as we know. In addition, not every one of your abductees is one and some of the aliens in their reports. Are really just imagination or lies? Again, this English is killing me, but moving on. Question: how can we protect us against the influence on our mind? Answer: I don't know. I doubt you can, because your mind is like an open book to read and write for nearly every species I know. This is partly the guilty of the Elohim themselves, because they had constructed, or better, misconstructed, intentionally, your mind and your consciousness without real protection mechanisms. If you're aware that someone tries to manipulate your mind, you can only concentrate on that suspicion and try to analyze every one of your thoughts and memories. Very important, don't close your eyes. This would lead to a different form of brain waves, which are more easy to access, and don't sit or lay down to rest. If you stay awake during the first minutes, you can maybe try to filter the other thoughts and waves in your brain, and the inducer will give up after some minutes if he or she is not successful, because it will start to hurt his or her own brain. This is very difficult and certainly painful, and it can harm you. So better don't try to resist it, but it would be the only possibility you have. However, you can try this only with more weaker species, not with the strong. Question: what do you mean the one species comes from a very different plane? Answer: before I can explain that correctly to you, you must be able to understand the universe, and this would mean a maybe useless teaching of your mind, including the remove of some barriers. Teaching of your mind of many weeks with the teaching, I mean not only teaching, oh my God, please. I have said this with your word plane or level, because you have, again, no better word in your vocabulary, and dimension would be in this case absolutely wrong. It's rather wrong even for another bubble, because a dimension can't exist without planes. If you would be a species living in another or over the plane, and if you would be furthermore able to enter planes without technology, so that your body is not made of that kind of matter, then you would be the mightiest being you can imagine. This very advanced race I've mentioned has developed outside of here, and they've evolved, in fact, over billions of years. They would be able to destroy all of you and us and everything with just a single thought. We were in contact with them only 3 times in our whole history, because their interest in your planet is different from that of all other races. They are definitely no danger for you or us. Interesting there how she says interest in your planet, when like at the very start she was like, this is our planet, not yours. Question: what will happen when the war begins? Answer: this is difficult to answer. It depends on the enemy race and on their tactic. War is not always that primitive thing you humans mean with the word war. It can be fought on various levels. One possibility they have is the destruction of your social system by influence on political leaders. Oh my God. Another is the use of advanced weapon systems which can cause earthquakes or volcanic eruptions. Okay. Or other disasters, which may seem natural to you. The special fields from copper fusion I've mentioned earlier are able to have an influence on your global weather. I think they will not attack the planet directly before the human civilization is weak, because even you have possibilities to destroy their craft, but not many. Let me say that we are not absolutely sure if there will be such a hot war already in the next years. I don't want to talk further about this. Question: this is the end of the interview. Do you want to say a last sentence or message? Answer: open your eyes and see. Don't believe only in your wrong history or your scientists or your politicians. Some of them know the truth about various things, but they don't inform the public to avoid confusion and panic. I think your species is not as bad as some of my kind thinks, and it would be a pity to observe your end. That's everything I can say. Go through your world with open eyes and you will see, or maybe not, your kind is ignorant. Question: do you think anyone will believe that this interview is the truth? Answer: no, but it is an interesting experiment for my social studies. We will meet again in some months, and you will tell me what have happened after the publication of my message. Maybe there is hope for your kind. So that's the end of the read through, by the way, guys. I want to give you my thoughts on a couple of things that we went through there. But I will say there is a part 2. Okay. So you would have heard in that they spoke about another meeting a year later. That happened, and we have the transcript, right? But this is already an hour and a half. So I think this is enough for one video. Okay. I want to talk about the fact that she's saying, okay, let's talk about the whole concept of this Cold War, this incoming war that's going to happen, that is cold, that's going to turn hot. I'm interested in the theories behind what Dr. Courtney Brown has said, and what is the reason for disclosure, right? Like, why after 80 years of secrecy, what happened in 2016 or 2017 that made them be like, okay, it's time to let some videos slip and begin the ball rolling slowly? Because I think it's pretty clear that there was like, in a meeting somewhere, they were like, okay, we've got a 10-year plan. We've got 10 years to prepare people. And, that was in 2017. We've just come into 2025, and we're really coming up to that tipping point now. The conversation was very different in 2019, 2018, 2020 even. So it's evolved a lot. Okay. It feels very intentional. So we have to ask why. And the fact that reptilians, I'm definitely getting a sticker under this video, by the way. The fact that reptilians are like the least spoken about species, or at least like the most hushed up species, assuming they're real. It's interesting that she's saying that, like, we've actually been here as long as you. We've kind of grown up here together. We've kind of watched your species be tinkered with. The people who did it are not the good guys. They've told you that we are the bad guys, but actually they're the ones that keep wiping you out. Every time they make a cycle and they're not happy with it, they just come back and wipe you out and they start it again. Like, you're literally just an experiment, and we're watching and feeling sorry for you on the sidelines. That's kind of the vibe that we're getting here. So given that it seems like they, if you're to believe this, that they want to help us, and there is a Cold War simmering under the surface that's probably going to be between us, good ETs, whoever they are, and bad ETs. If the idea of reptilians are real and they actually do want to help us, that would make way more sense as to why they shut people up about even mentioning they exist. Because, like, if you're going to war with a species, right? Okay, I'm sorry. Look, I've got a chaotic mind here, and I'm jumping around because I'm thinking about this in real time and putting it together. So, okay, the military-industrial complex is compromised by a bad non-human intelligence, right? I don't think that is the reptilians. At least this is the theory I'm giving you, just based on what's coming to my mind right now. Don't take this for serious, okay? I'm just coming up with theories. The military-industrial complex and the United States government is compromised and infiltrated by a form of non-human intelligence that is not reptilian, but it does not have humans' best interest at heart. There was an agreement signed between the United States government and military and these non-human intelligence in the late 50s, the Eisenhower Agreement that many, many people have spoken about. John Blitch, Phil Schneider, Courtney Brown, okay, lots of people, Stephen Greer, lots of people, actually, no, I don't think Stephen Greer said that. He thinks all ETs are good. Anyway, many people have said this, right? And it's been said that in the, like, ET, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, these were like commissioned movies to begin to prepare people to, like, tell them about this, okay? To finally kind of, we've been doing this in the background with these guys. They've been helping us reverse engineer stuff, okay? It's time for you guys to know. But then something happened. And I think that something is the realization that, oh shit, actually these guys don't have our best interests at heart. They are manipulating us somehow. So that whole disclosure effort was canned, okay? And that's why after, like, ET, Just the whole like friendly alien thing just kind of stopped being a thing and it kind of died off. So if that is the case, and the United States government, obviously being human and they're realizing their mistake, they want to fix it. Okay. They want to break out of that. They want to fix humanity. And, you know, sorry, I'm thinking on the spot here. They want to fix humanity. It makes sense that we can talk about the Greys, if that's who this, you know, non-human intelligence is, or whatever it is, they're showing up as Greys. We can talk about them because, you know, they're working with the United States government, helping them or whatever. But they don't want any mention from us of reptilians because perhaps there is some kind of thing under the surface that they are going to be the ones who help us get rid of these bad entities that are working within the government. Okay. Because it's like, you know, if I'm going to go to war with you and, you know, it's so important that I win, so I've got these guys to come help me out, I don't want you to know that. Okay. I want to catch you by surprise. Like, I want to, you know, this is my secret plan here. I don't want to give that away. So any contact between us and them, even knowing them, it would make sense that that is why it's completely shut down on a level way beyond any other alien talk, right? I don't know. That makes just a theory based on what we've just read through. That could make a lot of sense. What do you guys think? That's all that's really coming to me at the moment based on what we just read, but it was super interesting. Like I said, I mean, if you're sitting there taking everything I've just said for like the absolute truth, I would tell you to go and get yourself a tap water and just relax because, you know, we don't know. But also I would say don't throw it all away either because it's very interesting. It's very thought-provoking, and you know, the fact that we don't have a clear understanding of our history is kind of crazy, right? We are like a species with amnesia. Why? How do we not know where the fuck we came from? Like, seriously, that's a pretty glaring question that hasn't been answered. So, you know, it's worth considering. It's super interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this read through. Like I said, there is a part 2. So if you did enjoy this and you actually made it all the way, let me know. If you want to see part 2, please let me know in the comments because it's probably a little bit less than what we read through today, but I'm keen to do it because I had a lot of fun with this one. So again, quick shout out to the members, guys. Really appreciate all your extra support. It warms my heart. I love you guys. Thank you so much for going the extra mile and being my little army of weirdos. And please, guys, follow me on my socials. Prefer Instagram. That's the platform I like to use the most. But I do post some reels and stuff on TikTok, and I argue with people on Twitter occasionally. No, not really. Well, sometimes, you know. If I see someone making a stupid comment, sometimes I'll let them know, but you know, I don't really get involved with that shit. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Be good to each other. Be kind. Make sure you're doing the right things. Yeah. Get outside, touch grass, go interact with other humans. The world isn't ending. Life is good. Yeah. All right. Good. I'll see you next time.